Okay, I think we'll make a start. Hi everyone, welcome to ArtsFest Online and to the final instalment in our series of Disability History Month talks. This afternoon we will be joined by artist Tanya Raabe-Webber. Tanya will be giving us a personal journey of the life and times of a living artist. Your chair for the session is Dr. Jim Davis, Senior Lecturer in Screen-Based Design and Co-Chair of the Disabled Staff Network here at the University of Wolverhampton. If you have any questions for Tanya, please use the Q&A box and we'll go through them at the end of the talk. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. The session is being recorded, so we ask you not to share any private or sensitive information in the chat. So with all that said, welcome both, and I'll hand you over to Jim.
Hello everybody. I have the privilege this afternoon of introducing you to Tanya Raabe-Webber. Tanya is an acclaimed disabled visual artist challenging the notion of identity within contemporary portraiture, often creating portraits of high-profile disabled and diverse people during live sit-ins in high-profile public art galleries and venues. She uses a mixture of traditional and digital painting and drawing techniques, often fusing the two together in an interactive live environment, inviting physical and online audiences to join in. So Tanya is also a mentor to other artists and specialists in supporting learning disability artists and artist practice. So kind of without further ado, Tanya, can I hand over to you, please? Thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody, and welcome to my studio. As you can see, it's full of like lots of little paintings and stuff, and I'm going to do I'm just going to do a share screen now to share my talk. Hopefully this is going to work and we won't have any hitches. Give me a moment. Oh, there we go. Because I'm on my iPad here. I'm just going to move it over so I can see it on my screen. Cool. So I'm going to take you on a journey, on a Tanya Raabe-Webber journey. In fact, it started out as a Tanya Raabe journey and became Tanya Raabe-Webber journey halfway through. So I always start with who is Tanya Raabe-Webber? Because when I do portrait sittings, this is always my starting point. And I'm a mentor, as Jim has just said. I'm a creative enabler, so I support others to enable them to create their work in the way that they want to create it. And I'm a collaborator. I'm a painter of people, a painter of landscapes and environments. And I have such a massive love of painting cats, as I can just see my cat now waiting to come into the studio. Hopefully I won't have to get up and let her in. And my work is very much a fusion of the digital with traditional paint. And this is recent work that we're looking at here. So in the 80s and 90s, this is kind of when I kind of really started to formulate who I was, what I was doing, what the kind of work I wanted to create. And here we've got a picture of a magazine, Disability Arts magazine, it's called, and this was the kind of the starting point of where I kind of started to formulate who I was. And the artwork on here is called Giving Birth to the Master Race. So birth and yeah, so the themes in my work are very much centered around pregnancy, birth and reproduction in the 1980s and 90s. And this was the work was very much about finding my place in society and the art world. So in this collection here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 artworks And I'm very much a prolific artist. Sometimes I make work in seconds. Sometimes I make work in over quite a long period. A long period would be, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks on one painting, maybe. And so these artworks are very much based around how I saw the world and how the world interacted with me. So the first, top left, is called The Hug. The second one in the top row is called An Uplift of a Lifetime. The next one is called Ooh, What a Lovely Bottom. I do like that one. It's kind of about the attitudes that people had towards disabled people at the time. And then this one is the artwork of me, somebody opening a door and trying to be very helpful by opening the door, but in fact, opening the door for me is a bit of a problem, because I put my whole body weight onto a door in order to open it. So if somebody pulls it from behind me, I'm going to go flat on my back. And then we're kind of carrying on with the theme of the way that different people saw me and how I saw them. And there was a very huge series of works in the kind of late 90s, which were really based around the images of disability in the media, and how, and how we saw, and how disabled people were being seen. And I used a lot of collage material. I was kind of tearing up magazines, bodybuilding magazines, wheelchair magazines. And I think the birth thing has come a lot from looking at Frida Kahlo in my work. And that's kind of like, that's something that stayed with my work for quite a long time. And then we've come to the 2000s. Now the 2000s was a really interesting time for me, and this was a period when I thought that well, first of all, I got a grant, my first grant from Arts Council England, and this was to look at how I fuse the digital world with the real world of paint and digital paint. And again, the kind of birthing image kind of comes through again. And in the center of that wheel there is a scan of a fetus which has arthrogryposis, and that's what I kind of live with. And I kind of feel that I was drawing in the womb, so this was kind of the base for that. So sorry, that's my little accessible dot that I've just touched there. So this one is, so again, this was kind of introducing the idea that I was kind of starting to use pieces of acetate, which is quite clear film, to draw through, holding it up like a window. And I was holding this acetate up in front of myself and drawing myself through the window. So it's like kind of using a lot of mirrored imagery, and then kind of putting that into the computer, and then seeing what I could do in terms of digital manipulation. And I guess in the in 2000, it was quite basic what you could do with the technology at that time. So it was kind of very much around using the crutch as my backbone. Again, we've got the fetus in the center. And then in 2007, I changed direction totally and wanted to portray other people rather than portray myself. And at the time, I was very much involved with the disability arts movement, and this was a place where I felt I fitted, and where I felt comfortable with some of the ideas that I had. So I kind of rallied around all the people that were influencing me at the time, and wanted to do a series of portraits, and also sort of like to remember, to highlight the fact that, these disabled artists who have kind of really changed how we do things have, are not being seen in our mainstream galleries. So top left, we've got Matt Fraser, who's an actor. We see him on TV quite a lot now. I think he's been in that new drama. I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure somebody's going to come up with that. On the top right, we've got Julie McNamara, who's a provocateur and an actress. And bottom left, we've got Colin Hambrook, who now is one of the directors and the founder of Disability Arts Online, which is where we see a place for disability arts thriving. Bottom right hand corner, we've got what's it, Tony Heaton, which I'm sure you've been to his talk as well earlier in this season. And at the time, he was running the Halton Lee, which was a place where disabled artists practiced. And then in 2010, again, I went into a second phase of portraiture. So this phase was all about faces, and toured quite considerably around the country. But strangely enough, the galleries the mainstream galleries often said, "Where's the disability? I can't see the disability in there." And I thought, how strange! What a strange thing to say. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna really push this. I want to look at disability culture head on this time. I want to do a series of portraits of people who are really pushing the boundaries in society rather than arts. So here we've got a full-size painting of Sophie Morgan. I'm sure we've seen Sophie Morgan on many TV programs, presenter. We've got Baroness Jane Campbell here, who again campaigns for the rights for life, and she's Baroness. And we've got I've forgotten his name. Sir William Lawrence, sadly no longer with us. I love this painting. Look at his two little fingers coming out of his hands there, and I love this way that the clothes that he's wearing almost looks like his skin. And so William Lawrence did a lot of work for tourism and disability. And then we've got Simone Aspis, who's a self-defined learning disabled person, artist, and she often creates campaigns around human rights and learning disabled people. And then I'm going into the Endaka collection, which I'm sure Tony Heaton told you completely about. And here, the Endaka, the National Disability Arts Collection and Archive, has actually taken over 30 pieces of my artwork, along with a few cherished clips of my life here. So here we've got a clip from Yorkshire Post. I'm sure you can see the Yorkshire accent in my accent there. And this is when I presented a bouquet of flowers to Princess Anne, who came to see the riding for the disabled at my disabled school. On the right hand side, we've got Never Take No for an Answer. And this was about learning how to drive and get my car converted. And in the same article, we've got Alison Lapper, who also got her car converted at the same time. And so our paths have crossed many times. And I love this little picture of a photograph of myself, 10 years old, my giant boots there, which I no longer have because I now have the foot amputated, got a false foot now. But it's a nice reminder of the times gone by. And then, yeah, as I was saying earlier, Tanya ties the knot in Halton, which is where the archive began. So me and my husband got married at Halton in the art gallery. And then one of my biggest projects today is Portraits Untold. Portraits Untold was a unique project celebrating the diversity of our common humanity through a series of live portrait sittings with high-profile sitters in well-known venues, which took place in the summer and autumn across the country in 2016. So we had, I'm going to go through, we had Neil Baldwin, a learning disabled guy who used to be the kit man at Stoke City Football Club. And there we are, painting his portrait in the city. And there's always an audience, and the audience join in and do the drawing of the sitter as well. We've got John O'Confra, who's a BAFTA award-winning filmmaker at Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery. And I'm very excited to say that this portrait has now been bought by the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery. And you're the first guys to be told this, so this is very exciting. And again, there's a picture, a drawing from the iPad drawings during the session. A collaboration with Dame Evelyn Glennie at the National Portrait Gallery. She brought her instruments along, and we did an impromptu collaboration. Again, here's a drawing. We've got David Hoyle, avant-garde David Hoyle, who again. David assumes two characters. One is his daytime persona. One is his evening persona, and David actually did my makeup on the day. And again, this was in the National Trust, Benningborough Hall. So again, the audience is there watching the portrait unveil, and we're having a massive big conversation. Everybody's doing drawing and changing the way that we do things. And again, this is a quick iPad drawing from during the sitting. And then we've got the portraits finished. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. We've got the John O'Confra with some of the drawings that the public have done around the bottom there. We've got Neil Baldwin centered around the circus and this love of football. And again, some of the paintings and drawings that the public did in there. We've got David Hoyle with his two characters. And again, a load of the drawings that the people have done. And then we've got Evelyn Glennie, again with her, with some of the drawings that other people did, and a lovely white space on the left there to signify silence, even though we think there's no such thing as silence. So we had a celebration moment with the paintings for one night only, a soiree at the National Portrait Gallery. Have all the paintings, all the sitters, a lovely big audience, and we had a really nice discussion about the portraits and how we'd like to see them in in mainstream spaces. And then that led me on to working with Apple. A strange partnership going on here. But this was a beautiful thing for me, because this meant that I could actually draw for the first time massively on a big screen. And so it's very interesting drawing very small and then having it relayed on the huge screen. And the way that my work really transports to this really massive big space. So this was a residence lease with Apple, over actually 6 months, and they were going to actually create a mural out of the artworks. And then I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Art Studio 01, which is a collective that I set up in 2014, but we've now called it Art Studio Online. This is a group of learning disabled artists, people with mental health, people who are self-defined, people with complex needs, caregivers, and we've all come together because the thing that we've got in common is our love of practicing our own art. So what we do is we did have a physical studio, and this is an artist's impression of the physical studio. And this was in an old supermarket building, but sadly we've just been chucked out of it because the council are going to knock it down and turn it into a car park. So now we've become moved completely and utterly online over the pandemic, and we've just been commissioned to create an exhibition of our work during the pandemic by Disability Arts Online, one of their COVID commissions. So we're just working on that right now. And then this is more about my work again. 2019 hit, of course, the pandemic hit. What did we do? We we had to focus in on what we got. So this room that I'm in now, this is a room that I've turned into a hive of activity, has now become my studio. So this little painting is called Redress, and there was a film made of the making of this, and this portrait is going to a London exhibition called the Sequester exhibition next year. And I was just going to tell you a little bit about the work that over this period I've been working with the charity Sense, and they've asked me to create a arts manifesto, which was a great challenge. So again, I kind of looked at the manifesto was really to look at how Sense delivers their work during the pandemic, after the pandemic, all completely online. And so this was an artwork that I've created for them. You can go on, I think there should be a link in the chat for you to go and have a look at that. And then we've just right up to present day. So present day is, I think the future looks bright in the Tanya Art Studios, which we can see there, which is going to be my next phase. So I've just landed a nice big project from Arts Council England, £50,000, 18-month project. And this project is really kind of linking myself and with lots of other artists. We've got in the top left picture, we've got collaborative sketchbooks with several artists across the country. The next one down, we've got Postcard Art Express, which was a project actually born out of the Art Studio collective. This is working with, it's a postcard art exchange with several learning disability studio groups across the world. We've got one in Australia, one in Canada, one in Sweden, one in Finland, and they're all collaborating with various studios in the UK that I'm connected with. And then at the bottom here, we've got, this is a project which is a Tanya project. This is kind of looking at, it's called, what's it called? Countryside Special. And it's looking at going out to a 10-mile radius of my home studio and painting out in the countryside in beautiful spots, and really looking at how disabled people have got a very limited place to go because of the COVID thing going on. And I'm gonna finish with a little a 1 minute video, which is called Wheel Walks Moment Reframed, and it's all completely digitally done, and it's a wheel walk in my electric wheelchair between the village that I live in, Pontesbury, and the next village, which is called Minsterley, and it's a 1 mile corridor. And they built a cycle path, so I couldn't resist taking the old deluxe wheelchair up there to do an artwork. So I'm just going to move on to YouTube to show that, and I'm going to click. Brilliant, everybody. I'm going to come out of screen share now. And is Jim going to join me?
I am. I just turned my microphone back on, make sure I didn't make a mistake. That was that was absolutely fantastic. I was sitting here writing notes. I've got questions to ask. But I mean, we need to see whether we got anybody else want to ask some questions at all. So we're waiting for some questions. Well, while we're waiting for some to pop up, Tanya, I have a particular interest in performance as sort of the background that I'm interested in. And for me, yeah, I'm really intrigued to understand how did working with audiences, you know, this kind of live drawing come about, and to what aspect do you bring a performance to that, or is it just, you know, this is who I am, you're watching me do this? Just tell us a little bit more, if you could.
I think I bring a performance to that, but it's not a performance that's written or devised or anything like. It's a very natural performance. Why I kind of wanted to open that up into a performance, into a performative type of space, is because as a physically disabled person, you know, with all the twists and stuff that you know that's on, you know, that people can see. You can't really see it here. You know, I've had a lifetime of people, you know, constantly going, you know, oh, what's wrong with you? And people stare at you, people ask questions, So I thought, well, do you know what? The beauty of creating a painting is so mesmeric that, you know, people are just going to be more wanting to look at that, rather than looking at, you know, oh, let's look at this pair of crutches, or you know, or a twisted foot or a twisted hand, or whatever. Though you know, from time to time, I have had some very bizarre questions from the public, but also Jim, it comes from the fact that my parents were performers. They met in the circus, and my mother was a trained ballet dancer and a cabaret dancer. So the performance element has kind of, it's always been there. I've always been watching performances, watching them. You know, I spent a lot of my childhood, you know, at the Floral Hall in Scarborough, watching them doing their doing their plays and doing their amateur dramatics, going to watch plays and stuff, and and I always loved being in the back, and the smell of the of the what they used to call the war paint, they used to call it.
Right. So as myself as a teacher, and I play instrument and perform, there is a separation between that person for me and the person and the person that I am. There's a difference. You have the same persona? Are you the same? Here I am, artist. Look at my work. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's very much. You get to you see Tanya the artist. You don't see so much You don't see Tanya the private person. You do see. You see Tanya the artist. Kind of base my career on. On I'm almost a brand of my. In my own sense.
Okay, so, that's really interesting, because there's an aspect of looking at some of your portrait stuff that you've done. You're digging and finding and presenting personality and feeling, in your subjects.
Yeah.
And teasing that out. Again, forgive me for focusing on the kind of the group work. I find it really fascinating. So when you have other people that are creating works alongside you, do you get to see that as an ongoing process, or is that like okay, you do it and then give me it afterwards, or are you able to?
No, I often turn around and say, has anybody got anything they want to share? They might hold it up. Yeah, I mean, during the Portraits Untold thing, we had a whole kind of Twitter, Instagram, Facebook thing going on live, so that people could watch it live, and then they could do their drawings at home and then send them in. So we'd kind of, we'd have like a moment and to review what was being created, and then I'd curate what had been created to be then embedded into the finished painting.
Yeah, I love those. There's so much to them. I think absolutely fascinating, fantastic. Sorry, I'm kind of hogging you really. I know we've got hello Tanya. What do you consider to be the main barriers encountered by disabled artists and their work in accessing mainstream art world? Has this changed over the years?
Yeah, what do you call? Hello, Sid. I do know Sid. So what do you consider to be the main barriers encountered by disabled artists in the work? Well, I mean, the main barriers are they are the galleries, well, I mean, they're opening it up a little bit more now, but they've just found it very difficult to kind of to understand the work that we create, especially if it has a disability context, because it's very it's still something that galleries they don't have an understanding of it. They can't place it, so it's very difficult. So it often gets placed with with other genres, particularly. I mean, I'm just kind of working with Tate, who just kind of approached me, and they're kind of we're looking at the feminism, and but the word disability isn't in the context, and I think and I still think there's a lack of knowledge and understanding of that. I don't know whether they're all frightened of it, I don't really know.
So Sid says must be frustrating.
Well, yeah. Well, it can be very frustrating, but but I've kind of come to the point where I think that they should be coming to me rather than me going to them. So
I found your comment earlier when you was doing your portrait, and you said, they were asking where the disability was.
Yes.
That's kind of quite a really interesting, and your response was interesting to that as well. Do you have, reflecting on that, is that something that you did? Was there a strong intent to that, or was it, did it naturally move in that direction?
Well, I did the faces because I thought, well, it was about being recognised, so the face is something that is the point of call that we all go to. When you look at people's profiles, it's all about the face, isn't it? So that so I didn't want to put the full bodies in, and also I was more interested in drawing and painting people's faces than painting their whole bodies, which was just, at the time, it just felt a bit overwhelming, and I wanted to take their faces and really make their faces into almost bodies without the bodies there. If you see, it's kind of a bit strange thing to think, and also, a few disabled people at the time would, well, not at the time, we continually die a lot earlier than everybody else, and that's a fact, and so the fact that when they said, I mean, it was one particular gallery that said this, and it just, when somebody says something to me and it so massively affects you, you've got to carry it on to move it into something else. And I mean, it's quite shocking to, for people to say, well, where's the disability? What do you mean? Where's the disability? It was in the context of the whole of the exhibition. So I don't even know what they were trying to, why were they trying to say that? Well, again, I wanted to, with the next collection, which was the revealing collection, the revealing culture head on, I asked the sitters to bring two objects. They had to bring one object, which was a disability cultural object, and an object which was a personal object, so that we then, during the session, which was like an all-day thing, we had, and this was in Tate Modern and Tate Liverpool, and so we could have a conversation about these objects, and that would again open it up for the public to feel and find a way in to that as a conversation. And all of that conversation, all of that, what goes on in that sitting, I hope you can see it in the paintings, because it that all comes through.
So, but during your kind of journey as an artist, at what point did you begin to, I'm not asking you to define yourself or label yourself, but what point did you start saying, I am an artist? What point gave you that confidence?
Oh, as soon as I was born.
Really?
Yeah, always. Or I mean, I went to a special, in inverted commas, boarding school from the age of 4, so to 16. So so drawing was always part of my physicality. It was something that I could own. It was owned by me. It was something I could do completely and utterly alone, independent of other people, where everything else in my life always needed somebody else to assist.
Makes absolute sense. Yeah.
So this became something that I just continually, did and wanted to do. And, I'm like, when you grow up, when I grow up, I'm going to be an artist. And that's what I said to myself, and that's what I did. And I had to go around, around the peripheries to get there. It wasn't a straightforward go and learn, go and get a degree and it was a struggle to get all of that, because we're looking at a time when disabled people weren't really in the wider world.
Yeah. Okay. Barbara's put up a couple of Q&As. Barbara has asked, hello Tanya, is there a better way to approach you, being interested or helpful without making a mistake, like opening the door for you or asking too stupid questions? And then she goes on to say, people can be genuinely interested without wanting to hurt anybody, wanting to start a dialogue. So I think there's probably more of a statement there. And then Tim has put, I was intrigued by the sound in the wheelchair video. Do you think the sounds around you affect your paintings?
Oh, well, you see, the what I wanted to do with the wheel walk film is, I mean, I've got several different power chairs and wheelchairs, but for this particular one, I'm sitting in the one at the moment that was recorded for that, and I was thinking, when I go on my wheel walk, I have to listen to the power of the chair, because that is, in fact, I don't get to hear the countryside sounds until I've stopped. So that fills my my periphery hearing until I stop, and then you go, oh. But then I do have another chair that has absolutely no sound at all. So I could have gone in that one up on my wheel walk, but I particularly, for the wheel walk for this, I particularly wanted the sound of the motor. And as you're going up the hill, you're increasing your power, and as you're coming down the hill, or you're wanting to have a moment of contemplation within your wheel walk, then the sound of the engine comes to a standstill. So again, the sounds around me definitely influence the work that I do. I mean, when I'm just working in the studio, I often have like old black and white movies on, because I just love that. I love the sound of I don't watch, but I like to have the sound of kind of old black and white movie soundtracks in the background.
I think that's really interesting. I again, forgive me for probably abusing my position here, because I'm asking another question, if I may. I'm interested in the kind of relationship between the two things, both the physical material that you're manipulating, whether it be on board or canvas, and the digital domain. I've seen some interviews with Hockney about how he's gone to work with iPads. How did you make that transition? Or not? It's not really a transition, is it? Because you have a foot in both camps.
Yeah.
How did you bring one of those? How did you bring those worlds together, I suppose?
Yeah, well, I kind of in 2000, that's when I got a grant to kind of investigate that for the first time. But I've always been interested in technology. I like it. I love a gadget, and I love a gadget that actually makes your life is so much better and so much easier. And for me, when iPads came along, that was a revolution for me, because that the iPad then, in terms of drawing, it gave me the ability to draw quickly, massively quickly, and without pressure of holding a pencil. When you hold a pencil or a hard tool, it can, you know, you have to in order to get a pressure sensitive line, you have to press quite hard, and for me that's quite difficult. And when the iPad came along, it was a beautiful thing when that iPencil just glided across that surface. Oh my God, I was so excited by that. so the iPad has really kind of come into its own with my work, and then again, I kind of like, as you can see from the earlier work, you know, I was using like you know, like paper collage, and now just recently with this new project, my digital collages, along with the, you know, so I go out and I do a real painting like this one here. It's a tree. It's on a piece of metal. It's on aluminium metal, and it's got acrylic painting. And then I scan that in, and then I can do so many glorious things with that. And I've kind of manipulated that with portraits of my own head, and it makes me then when I'm doing this kind of these processes, it makes me, I think quite a lot, and I think in layers of what it means and what it's about, and what other people will see from it. And I think a lot about how I can tell the story within a piece which is multi-layered. Okay. And I think also it's just so interested, especially with like more traditional painting, you know, the genres, especially like, you know, we're looking at the you know, National Portrait Gallery and the BP Portrait Prize, which still to this day doesn't accept anything with a digital format, and I really think it's time for these competitions to really open that up, because there's so much, you know, there's so much you can do with, like, you know, with fusing a physical painting with the digital manipulation, and then to bring it back out there. So now I'm very excited about printing digital work, and then image transferring that back onto the canvas, and then working back into that as a painting. So that is kind of something that I'm kind of experimenting with right now.
That's interesting. Texture, how do you work with texture in that digital domain and back, obviously from the layering and this bringing it back in?
Well, the textures again, you know, you make surface textures with your paints in the digital world, which you can also bring that out as a, you know, as a printed thing, and then to montage that into your image, transfer it into your physical painting, and then to manipulate that.
Okay. Barbara's asking, in your talk you mentioned coming exhibitions. Can you tell us more about those?
What, the coming exhibitions? What we're doing next? What I'm doing next?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so well, with this big project is the sketchbooks and the countryside special and the postcard thing and the art studio collective commission. So these things are all going to be online. So I'm just about to start after Christmas. I'm setting up a new website which will be called Tanya's Art Studios, and so I'll be creating online exhibitions with all these different elements, and these will be online on all of my social media. So that's I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and so they'll be all on there, sort of like we're looking at probably from April onwards.
And Tanya's Art Studios?
And Tanya's Art Studios. Oh, yeah. Well, on Tanya's Art Studios, but they'll also be hopefully be on their own platforms as well, because kind of looking at platforms that can generate new audiences as well. So if I just keep it to my own website, that's not, I want to get further out.
Okay, fantastic. Have you got some, I don't know whether or not, Claire, you might be able to come in here. Do we have a way of sharing some of your links and some of your social media stuff for people that are viewing today? I know that you are fairly prominent on the internet, having looked myself for what you do. So I know you're there, but it just might be helpful.
I did send a load of links to Claire.
Yeah, I'm going to share those while you're chatting.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Great.
So when you support and you coach other artists and disabled artists, I'm interested to kind of, is there a commonality of issue that people come with you in terms of maybe creative blocks or maybe approaches? I just wonder whether there's anything that you could share with us that wasn't in a more general sense.
Yeah, I think artists come to me, you know, for many different supportive reasons. But essentially, I think really, I'm kind of there to really facilitate, not facilitate, to enable. Enable artists. Yeah, there's probably the cat knocked something over, who knows. See, yeah, so I'm really here to really enable anybody who wants to, who has a passion for creative practice. And that could be anything from somebody just wanting to have an experiment with this, that and the other, or it might be somebody who's already got many artist skills and is quite embedded in their own identity, in their own art form. They might want support in you know, in professional arts practice, how to sort of like get from here, you know, how to get their work seen in the wider world, supporting people with access to work. So, because again, you know, that's kind of something that disabled artists need and often miss out on. Grants, you know, looking at people, supporting people to devise their ideas into projects, ideas for funding bids. That's something that they might come to me for.
Okay, that's
but
lovely.
essentially, I'm interested. I love to just, you know, I just like to be with other creative people.
That's fantastic. I want to go back, and I'm jumping all over the place. I don't have a series of questions that I've got written down here, but I'm intrigued to. You're a prolific artist. Clearly you are, and you said so yourself. And so how do you keep all of your work? How do you have physical work that you digitize, and then, or do you keep, I see you've got some work around you now, and I'm assuming the rest of the house must be full.
The garage is certainly full, and having given the archive over 30 pieces was such a relief to be giving them this work. But yeah, I mean, I'm going into a next phase of because I'm working quite small at the moment, and I want to be able to sell the work at affordable prices. So I want people to be able to invest in an artwork, not at £1 million. You know, that is something that I'm very also very interested in. So what I do is I do take an awful lot of photos. I think there's over 20,000 photos on my Apple gadgets. It's crazy. So I photograph everything as it's going along, and I try to catalogue it as much as possible. And on my websites, there's there's various collections, like the Who's Who, the faces. Those are collected on my website. They've got their own blog, and the Portraits Untold is has its own website, which is just about to be demolished because I can't afford to keep that one up any longer.
Well,
but I should be moving that over to my website.
Okay. Well, we're in a world with people buying NFT images. Are you familiar with those? This is this way of selling the original digital image. And
I haven't looked into that. Somebody mentioned that just not so long ago, but I think I might need somebody with tech knowledge to to look into that for me.
Yeah, I can't say that I know too much about it myself, other than I've seen it occasionally on the BBC, where an item as the original video of this, or the original pixel computer drawing has sold, and I just wondered in terms of investment, whether maybe one day I could get a digital image of yours, rather than a physical, whether there's a way in,
All right, so you'd buy the digital image, and you'd keep the digital image on. Where would you keep it?
Well, I'm not so certain. I think my understanding is you then kind of own it, so that there's some that, rather than I have a digital image and it can be duplicated, you have some sort of ownership. But I think I'm foraying into a world of unknown. It just struck me, given that you're working across the two domains. There's that physical object that we've got, wonderful things, and then there's obviously the digital ones, which I think some people are trying to monetize in some way. Yeah,
because normally I would keep the digital things just as like just kind of like solely as a print, or as a film, like the Wheel Walk film that we've just seen. But I haven't really kind of monetarized that yet.
No. Okay. I'm mindful that it's 3 o'clock. How much time do we have, Claire?
Well, we're okay for about 5 minutes.
Just wondering whether there's anybody else wants to ask question, or have any points that they'd like to share.
I'm really sorry. We've got another booking.
Have you? Okay. Oh, okay. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. That's okay. Sorry, Jim, I interrupted.
No, I'll hand over to you, Claire, just to round off, if you would.
All right. Well, Tanya, your work is amazing, and I've loved listening to you this afternoon. Thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks, Jim, for hosting the session. Some really great questions there. And well, that was our final online talk for 2021. But we will be back next year with a whole new programme of events. And of course, Wolverhampton is hosting Touring British Art Show 9 from January 22nd to April the 10th. So there'll be lots to get involved with. Please keep checking our web pages for details on that. Before we go, I want to wish everyone happy Christmas, and see you all in the new year. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you. Bye-bye.